Hello YouTube, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I'm going to be fixing this broken stool, so let's go ahead and get started. So let's take a look at what we have here. So this is actually a classroom lab stool. My physics teacher let me take this home to fix it. But you can see that over the years there has been some repair jobs. It looks like someone tried using sheetrock screws earlier. But the original joinery here was just these dowels and glue. It does look like it kind of held up, but it looks like for the most part it's kind of crumpled. But most of these pieces are still usable, so I'll try to use whatever I can, and then I'll probably make some new pieces. It looks like this one here is kind of in rougher shape. So it does look like this section here is actually pretty good. All that really needs to be done is there needs to be some glue added here, and I'll pound this back together. But for the most part, all these joints are pretty solid, so I'll just throw a little bit of glue in here. I'm just using some pretty light duty tight bond here. Now we're gonna go ahead and kind of pound it. I might have gone a little heavy on the glue. Let some of that dry, and then I'll probably wipe that down real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these. Now that I've gotten this part clamped here, I'm gonna go ahead and put some wood glue on these dowels and then push these into these holes. Looks like a dowel broke off in this hole, so I'm gonna have to go ahead and drill that out. Add some glue to one of these legs. But we can go ahead and slide this leg back on and then pound it in place. Go ahead and pound the other leg in, so just line those up properly. Oops, that's not ideal. So finally, I'm going to go ahead and use a clamp to cinch in this last piece here. You can see there's quite a lot of dripping glue, which is honestly a good thing because the more glue, the better. You can always clean it off later. So we're going to try and suck this edge here as tight as possible such that the glue does its thing. Use some paper to wipe off where it's really just dripping. So here's the stool surface. The actual sitting part is fine, but underneath there's quite a lot of grime. So I'm gonna go ahead and just grind that away with this orbital sander, and then I'll apply some new poly to it. So since I'm staining both sides of this, I'm gonna try and do it in a least messy way. What I'm gonna do is I'm going to drive in a screw into the top where I've already had a hole. And then I've attached this wire to a clamp at the top of the bench. So what I can do is just hang this bench top like so, and hopefully it won't fall. And that way I can kind of stain both sides and then let it dry without having to get all sorts of crap on the bench, and also, you know, touch it and then flip it. This just makes it easier. So let's go ahead and pop this can open. While we wait for the first coat of that to dry, I have to fabricate a new piece here. So one of these horizontal pieces here is missing. It looks like it actually broke off because there was part of it in here still that I had to kind of drill out. I was originally going to spin a new one and then try to make that little dowel so I could glue it back in, but it looks like that's going to be a little more of a process. So I think the move here is just going to be to cut a new piece out of like a 2x4 or something, and then try to get the angles close. This is going to be a challenge because not only is the leg angled out this way, it's also like at an angle here. So I think I'm going to kind of dry fit it and then just sand it down until it fits perfectly, glue it, and then use a couple nails to nail it in. So it looks like this is about 1/4 inch by 1/4 inch. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut a piece. So here's what we got. It looks like a pretty close match. You can see it actually might be a little thicker, but once we sand down those edges to round it off and we stain it, it should look pretty much the same. So now the challenge is kind of to figure out how to cut this exactly at the right angle. So like I said, I'll probably just kind of mark it, try to make a cut with a miter saw, and then just sand it the rest of the way down. So I traced the approximate angle I want to cut, so I'm going to go ahead and line that up with the fence. And then it looks like it's very close to 90 degrees. You can see my blade has that little shadow. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna adjust this until it's perfect, which that looks like pretty close to the right angle. So we'll lock that in. This is the shadow, by the way, as you can see, and it's pretty much right on the line. That's pretty damn close. Look at that. Let's go ahead and add some glue before we tap in these joints. Tap these into place. So I ended up drilling a couple very, very small pilot holes there, so that way there's a little track for the finished nails to go into. Reason being, since this is the end grain of this, and it's construction lumber, I didn't want it to crack and then be really annoying because I don't want to have to make another one of these. So now hopefully when I tap this in, it'll go in really nicely, which it is. It'll be a little hard to conceal that nail right there, but it definitely holds well. So let's go ahead and do that for the top. While I'm at it, I'm also just gonna go ahead and sand down the rest of this because I'm gonna have to apply poly to this anyways. So let's go ahead and do that. At this point, most of it has been stripped, so I think I'm ready to apply a coat of poly. So let's go ahead and do that. So it has dried. You can see that it's pretty okay looking. And now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna sand it with some 220 grit sandpaper and then reapply a second coat. After that sanded, it should be good to put together. So I am gonna go ahead and attach this stool top to the actual stool now. Go ahead and add a little bit to this area here. Now that I've put this on, I'm just gonna kind of move it around so we can get that glue all over the surface and then kind of lift it to make sure that it's actually bonded. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. So now we're gonna cinch this all the way down with a couple of decking screws. So I drilled a couple pocket holes down here because I felt like these screws weren't enough, so you can see I went around. And I'm just basically driving them in so that this can have a little bit more support and it won't come apart. A little bit of an angle because there's these legs here, but now we're applying the final coat of polyurethane. There it is. You can see it's currently drying. I did apply the second coat. This is the new piece of wood that I made. It does look a little bit different compared to the others, but it's not too noticeable if you back up. So now we just gotta wait for it to dry and we're basically done.